What?
What?
Why
We
is
need
this
chicken
so
nuggies. Stat.
Who said that?
Jamie.
Jamie, me and
Oh,
you,
Jamie.
same page right now. Same fucking page right now. Stat.
Chicken nugget required.
You did not read the requirement. The required amount
Alright,
of
we're
chicken
live.
nuggies to enter this.
No.
We're live,
damn
boys.
it.
Everyone shut up. Everyone shut up. Shut up.
Yeah, everybody
Okay.
shut up.
All right.
You
So,
must consume chicken nugget SP.
dude, Jamie, you're dead. Okay. We're going to be starting.
Hold on, I found it.
Okay. Put it on.
Alright, we're good.
All right. As you put it on, I'm going to be explaining the rules. Okay. So for this debate, which is pretty improvised, we're going to be doing our standard moderated debate. Everyone, at first, we will have a speech of. Jesus, shut up. Jesus, shut up. Shut up. Shut up. Shut up. Server muted you. All right. You will both be starting off with a 5-minute speech, in which you will be explaining your opening arguments. Then we will follow with a 3-minute speech with a 1 minute and 25 questioning period afterwards, and we will do that repeatedly for a total of 3 times, and then we will be concluding with a 5-minute end speech in which you will explain why you feel that you've won this debate. Special rules that need to be mentioned are that during the beginning of your speech, you will both of you have 3 minutes of prep time, in which you are able to use at any point during the beginning of your speech in order to prepare for what you are going to say during that speech. You have 3 minutes of total prep time that can be used at any point during the beginning of your speech. I think that those are all of the special rules that we will be using for this debate. And if there are any questions, please ask.
There you go. Thank you.
All right. I don't have any questions, but whoever wants to start first.
Okay, so Mao Zong, you will be taking the affirmation.
Yeah,
So
let him start
meaning
first.
you're going first. And then followed by Gay Jesus. So, on your first word, Mao.
Okay, I'm going first, you said?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. First off, I want to start with a few definitions. Socialism is broadly defined as a social or public ownership of the means of production, led by the proletariat. The ideology is built upon the ideas of the 19th Europe. Socialism is a pro-worker ideology, unlike capitalism, which is and always worker. An example would be the McCormick harvester strike, in which workers demanded better working conditions, like 8-hour working days, for example. And instead of satisfying the workers' needs, the capitalists hired strikers to shoot and kill the workers on strike. In Germany, when Hitler was leader, he abolished labor unions. All capitalist nations care about corporations and corporate power, not the average person. In capitalist America, we have a dictatorship of the bourgeoisie, while in socialist countries, it is a dictatorship of the proletariat. Proletariat meaning working class or workers, just in case you don't know what that means. It doesn't mean an actual dictatorship, but rather the public power being held by the working class instead of the private owners. And so lower stage communism, as Marx defines it, is a transition stage between capitalism and communism. Communism is defined as stateless, classless, and moneyless society that is brought about through global mass material abundance and world cooperation. I believe that socialism is not only better and more efficient than capitalism, but is also the only way to get us through the climate crisis. It's socialism or extinction. Corporations will only do what's profitable, even if that means destroying the environment and completely using up natural resources, which will happen. And yeah, that's my
Do you concede your time?
yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Mao, for that speech of 1 minute and 50 seconds.
Okay.
Now we'll be moving on to the 5-minute opening speech from the negation, Jesus over here. On your first word, Jesus.
Do I respond to that, or do I Continue
Someone
on.
opening.
You basically, so with the speech, I'd recommend, if you want a recommendation.
Well, hold on. I'd like to formally apologize for my inexperience. My first time. Also, sound check. How do I sound?
You sound perfectly fine.
Okay, thank you. Well, basically, everything that he said was fear mongering. I mean, capitalism. It puts the means of production has already been seized by the workers. The workers that don't choose to seize that by being an entrepreneur, such as like a businessman or something like that, open their own business. Those people go to work for someone else. Does that make sense? Like it's they already have the means of production. The only thing that socialism does is it takes from those hardworking people and it puts it into the hands of someone like Stalin or the state. The state took control of the means of production and falsely claimed that they were giving it to the people when in fact they were actually taking it from the people. That makes sense. Come in here. Come on. So, in a way, it's basically what any communist does. It started as a lie. It has always been a lie. And then that's why you have people that claim it's not real communism, it's never been tried before, because that's how they continue to gain power. Is because if you believe and you actually see what's happened, the facts that these things they cause dictatorships, they create dictatorships. It starts as an economic plan, and then it leads into something far greater. And it's, in a way, I will give them that. It has been corrupted, but it will always be corrupted. Thank you.
Thank you, Jesus, for that speech of 1 minute and 30 seconds. Now we'll be moving on to the 3-minute refutation speeches. First starting with Mao and then going to Gay Jesus, and then we will be referring to the questioning period. Mao, on your first word, or if you need to use your time to prepare your speech.
Okay. He said that in the USSR, I believe this is what he said, that only the state seized power. I think that's what he said. And yeah, while that is true, the state was led by the proletariat, though. That's the difference, and not by the bourgeoisie like it is in America, for example. And what else I was gonna say is he also said that oh yeah, the USSR, it had a dictatorship under Stalin, which is just not true at all. And the reason why it's not true is because he was democratically elected through the workers that lived in the USSR, unlike Hitler or something that just appointed himself as chancellor. So yeah.
Is that
Well,
a concession of time?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Mao, for that speech of 50 seconds. Now moving on to Jesus's 3-minute opening speech. If you need time to prepare anything you're going to say, Jesus, you can take time off your 3 minutes, or we could do it on your first word.
I didn't hear any of that, but what I'm going to go with is I'm going to attack him on the part that Hitler was not appointed as chancellor, because I heard the end bit, and that's important to me. He was not appointed. He did not appoint himself as chancellor or as president. His party was voted in. Communists had been committing terrorist attacks on German soil since 1919, when they were put down by the homosexual known as Ernst Röhm. So they were put down by the homosexual Ernst Röhm, right? Everybody knows that. Communists committing terrorist acts. So they were put into a position that he would need to be granted emergency powers for 4 years. After those 4 years, Germany had recovered nearly completely. It was seeing prosperity like no other. And what was happening was that Poland, in the eyes of the people, Poland was committing terrorist attacks and were killing German civilians. This is known as a lie now, but people still believe that it could have been true because it was never proved to have been a lie, that the Polish army was kidnapping and killing German civilians on the border. And that is why he was granted further, more permanent power as chancellor and president. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jesus, for that speech of 1 minute and 25 seconds. Now moving on to the questioning period. Mao, since you have spoken least amount of time so far, I grant you the first question.
First question. Okay. My question is, what makes you think that capitalism is a superior system to socialism?
In my eyes, I believe that capitalism is currently the only thing fighting against socialism. And I think that though capitalism, I will give you a point here that capitalism is flawed, and that is what fascism does better. But capitalism is currently fighting against socialism the hardest, and I think that that is an important take. I think that socialism is an evil ideology, not only economic, but it's said to be economically beneficial to the people. Okay. Even if you take that, it hasn't been economically beneficial to anybody but the dictators, correct? So all it does is it gives the power to the dictatorship and to the party. It is a party-centric ideology. Thank you. I think that was supposed to be a
All right.
reply to your question. Sorry.
Yeah. I think we should. We can move on now. Moving on to the the next 3-minute rebuttal speech. Mao, you have the first rebuttal speech.
Okay. Once again, he's talking about how it's like one party. I think that's one of his main problems, is a one-party state. But without a one-party state, I don't know how socialism would exist. Because let's say someone that's a socialist is in power, then a few years later, there's someone that's like I don't know, just like a Democrat or something, like an American Party, for example.
So
And once
socialism can't
then it would
exist without. Okay.
I'm sorry, Jesus. I'm gonna have to ask you to not to interrupt.
Oh, you're fine.
it'll ruin the progress that the socialists before has had in the country. That's the one thing when the people say like one party states are like bad. I don't think so at all. I think it promotes the best progress in my opinion. And yeah, once again he said that they're dictators in the USSR. Once again, that's not true. And even Stalin himself, majority of the decisions weren't even made by him. It was made by the workers actually. Yeah, it was mainly made by the workers in the USSR. They had what's the word I'm thinking of? They had different what was I gonna say? Like people's assemblies throughout the country that would vote on different issues. It wasn't just Stalin that made all the decisions.
Is that a concession of time?
Yeah.
Thank you, Mao, for that speech of around 1 minute and 30 seconds. Moving on to Jesus' rebuttal speech of 3 minutes. On your first word, or if you want to use your prep time.
Okay, so basically what he was saying is that, socialism cannot exist without a one-party state, but a one-party state is inherently bad. There's no freedom within a one-party state. And I would like him to reply to this because I feel like he wasn't able to elaborate upon this. So I'm going to give him some more time to elaborate, if that would be possible.
Okay.
You can concede your time for this speech if you
I
need.
I will concede my time to let him elaborate.
I don't know if we're going to do that because of the strict schedule we have, but
Okay.
what I can do is since we will be moving on to the question period, you can ask them this direct question yourself.
Okay. In a way, one-party states, man, they just don't work unless there's a reason for them to be applicable. Like, I can understand a one-party state if the other party is a terrorist party trying to kill people, like the parties that in Nazi Germany, when they had to abolish all the other parties because the communists were killing people.
I'm sorry to keep the debate moving on. I'm going to have to ask you to ask a question.
Okay. Elaborate on your one-party state argument.
Okay, what'd you say?
I would like you to elaborate your one-party statement. Why social? Why? Okay, so I will give you a question. I'll give you a question. Why can't socialism exist without a one-party state?
Yeah, simple. Because if you have multiple parties, there's going to be divisions in the parties, and then sooner or later, someone's going to introduce capitalism, like we saw in the USSR. Yeah, under Gorbachev, and so it led to the collapse of the USSR and his privatization policies, perestroika, glasnost, that stuff.
All right. Since there doesn't appear to be enough time to answer our next question, we'll be moving on to the final 3-minute speech. After this will be your 5-minute end speeches. Mao, you have the first 3-minute speech.
I couldn't hear you. What did you say?
I said you have the first 3-minute speech.
Okay. I'm gonna start with just talking about what are the achievements in the USSR. They were the first country to eliminate poverty, and also they were the first to eliminate illiteracy, which is very important. And they were the first country ever to give women, women voting rights. First country ever, and they're what was I gonna say? They're hold on. Hold on 1 second. Oh yeah, so in the
New Zealand
USSR,
was the first.
What's that?
New Zealand
Jeez.
was
I'm gonna have to ask you
the
to
first
interrupt.
governing country to allow women to vote in elections.
New
I'm gonna have to ask
Zealand
you
was
not
that what you
to-
said?
Guys, I'm gonna have to ask. I'm gonna
Oh, I
I'm
know.
gonna have to ask
My
you to keep
point
it.
is,
I'm gonna have to ask you to keep the debate running. Jesus, I'm gonna ask you please not to interrupt one anymore.
Okay, I was gonna say that okay, life expectancy had doubled and infant mortality was also doubled. In 1972, the number of doctors was increased from 135,000 to 484,000. Number of hospital beds from 791,000 to 2,224,000. These are great socialist achievements. And we haven't seen anything like this. And while this was happening, they were being invaded by 14 capitalist countries while all this progress was happening. And yeah, concede my time.
Thank you, Bao, for that speech of 1 minute and 50 seconds, despite the interruptions. Gages, it's your 3-minute speech on your first word.
Okay, so while he was able to give achievements and such, I cannot do that because there are so many achievements that capitalism has brought forth. It's to explain them all would be impossible. And capitalism has been going for so long that you have so many achievements, but you do also have wrongs. You know, you have situations in which capitalism has failed. But going on, it was Finland and New Zealand. New Zealand introduced women voting rights in 1893, became the first, though it was not technically counted as it was a dominion. So it, a dominion isn't, as important with voting rights and things like that. I'd like to remind you, though, that Finland was anti-communist, highly anti-communist. But with doctors and things like this, and all these numbers and things, capitalist countries have also brought forth those kind of numbers. I mean, you have places like Finland, you have places like Sweden and Norway and Denmark and Switzerland, Italy, Spain. Spain, during its fascist dictatorship, was one of the most safest places in all of Europe. It was a anchor. It was just a beautiful place in general. Honestly, I recommend everyone go to Spain and see what a fascist dictatorship can do. It's beautiful. Though it was destroyed by a spiteful little creature known as the King of Spain, which is why monarchism is horrible, which is why I do like that the Soviet Union got rid of monarchism in the Soviet Union, but I don't like when they murdered and raped the monarchs. That's just not something I like. And that is what the creation of the Soviet Union was. It was a rape and murder of the czars. I concede my time.
Thank you, Fascist Jesus, for that speech of 2 minutes and 16 seconds. Now we will be moving on to the 5-minute end speeches. In this speech, you will be explaining why you felt you have won this debate. I would like you all to know that you cannot bring up any new information during this speech in particular. Mao, on your first word, or if you want to use prep time to prepare your end speech.
Okay, I can't say any new information, you said?
Yeah.
Oh, I can't?
Yeah, you cannot.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll need some time then. He could go first.
No, you want to use your prep time?
Yeah.
Okay, you have 3 minutes of prep time. Use as much of it as you need.
All right, I'd like to respond.
All right, on your first word, your time begins.
Okay. So he said a few things about how like Spain was nice under a fascist dictatorship or whatever. Okay, whatever. But my point is under socialism or under central planning, just that these achievements that happened were so great that even other countries around the world looked at some of the achievements, like vaccines in Cuba. First country to have a lung cancer vaccine was Cuba, despite all the economic sanctions and the assassination attempts to Fidel Castro. There were 6 by the CIA, and still they had all that progress, and not even a fully developed country compared to America, which is a fully developed country. They didn't develop it first compared to Cuba, which is underdeveloped, and they're the first ones to develop the vaccine. And there are many examples of this. Yeah. The idea that capitalism a lot is good for the economy, which is I think what he said. Oh yeah, that's his argument. But yeah, first thing I wanted to say is just it doesn't really benefit. Of course, it might benefit like the people at the very top, which are the elites. Like, well, I'm not going to use the word elites because sometimes fascists use that. But my point is, the people at the top or the bourgeoisie, for example, it only benefits them. It doesn't benefit the workers in society. That's my main problem with it. And yeah, I concede my time.
Is that a concession of time? Okay. Thank you, Mao, for that speech of 1 minute and 40 seconds. We will be moving on to the final speech of tonight with Jesus' end speech, in which he will explain why he has felt he has won the debate and why he felt that his opponent has lost the debate.
I feel that I've won the debate because every time Mao would open his mouth about Cuba, right? The reason they had been sanctioned is because they had killed civilians. Might I add that homosexuals were prosecuted quite heavily, and there were genocides across the country. That is the direct reason for sanctions, not because they were a socialist country. The same way the USA would sanction an African nation that is capitalist for committing genocide, like Rwanda. So when you say that it was assassination attempt, it's because he was genociding his own people, and we'd like to stop that. So what do? We go out there and we stop that. Has America always been good on things like that? No. So, but what I'm saying is that Mao, every time you talk about these countries, and the reason that I think I've won this debate is because every single country you've mentioned, the reason that they have fallen is because the people, the workers, proletariat, were tired that their families were being murdered, starved, and raped by the evil and corrupt communists. That is why Gorbachev destroyed them, if in your opinion, was because he was tired of his comrades doing these corrupt things. He decided to end the corruption. The people did not want communism anymore. There's still a communist party in Russia. If the people wanted communism, they would vote for it. Thank you.
Thank you for that speech of 1 minute and 40 seconds. That marks the end of this debate. As soon as our judge, Blue, here gives his final verdict on who has won the debate, we will then be opening up the debate for anybody to chime in and give their thoughts on the subject matter.
Can I respond to what he said, even though it's not part of the debate?
As soon as Blue finishes his
Okay.
judging, and then we can talk about it as a group.
Hi, I'm Blue. I think we all know me. So overall, the debate, I've seen good points from both sides. Obviously, Fascist Jesus, he did not have his prep time, so I think he did well considering what the circumstances and everything. But overall, I do think that Mao did win the debate, mostly due to the fact that I think Jesus got a little off topic at some points, and I think we should have more stayed on topic of socialism versus capitalism. But overall, it was mostly just the preparation time that came into play. But yeah, I think Mao won this one, but both sides did excellent.
All right, that marks the Blues' final verdict. If anybody would like to chime in on the actual debate themselves, you are now free to do so.
Yeah, okay. So you talked about Cuba and the genocide of homosexuals and whatnot. Well, those people were actually along with the hippies who didn't want to fight, which is a pretty big problem on a small island. If you have like a lot of people not wanting to fight, that's a pretty big problem.
They were with the hippies because the hippies agreed that they shouldn't be prosecuted for their sexuality.
No, that they shouldn't be fighting. They shouldn't be fighting. That's what
You
they
don't
were
have
about.
to fight if you. That's
Yeah,
something
that's a
that
pretty
in
big
America
problem.
by
To
communists.
defend a
in America.
revolution. Well, to defend a revolution, that's a pretty big problem.
Well, if the people don't want to, then
The
people don't
revolution
have
is
to.
everyone had been
Too bad.
for quite some time.
Hold on.
What do you mean too bad?
Oof.
Can I respond to Gay Jesus? Is that better than living under like the what, Carter? Or Mao? Can I respond to Gay Jesus for a second?
Yeah.
Okay, he said something in the USSR that they that Gorbachev, which is really funny. I don't know if he meant this seriously, but he said that under Gorbachev, people loved Gorbachev. That's like not true at all. They had a huge mass protest. Apparently they hated communism so much they wanted to bring it back in 1991. Guess that's how much they hated it. But anyways, so
Why they lost the
so
election?
there was a huge massacre. No, hold on. Huge massacre of all the communists that wanted to bring it back, which was the majority. If you look it up, it's the majority that wanted to bring back the USSR, and they were massacred by Gorbachev's regime. They were massacred.
If I could make a response to that, I don't think that actually accurately explains how the Iron Wall fell apart during this thing. The states and the citizens of the Iron Wall wanted to escape the Soviet Union. They never wanted to be a part of it in the first place, and they were only put under it because of the fact that they were occupied by Germany, and then Stalin came in and took all of the states instead of liberating them.
Yeah, the Hungarian Revolution, the Romanian one.
Ooh, the counter-revolution.
Counter-revolution. You mean when the people of Hungary were raped because the country supported Hitler, not the people. The people fought against that. Same thing happened in Yugoslavia. The Yugoslavian partisans were a very integral part of World War II who fought tooth and nail against the fascist regimes, right? And what did they get for it? Their people were raped, their people were slaughtered, just like my people in Berlin, right? 2 million women in Germany were raped during the war. 2 million. Come on.
Okay. I don't really care.
What?
I can tell.
If you're a fascist, like, I don't give a shit, to be honest with you.
And
Not very,
if you're not, then
humanist.
Like,
but
I mean, what do you
hold on.
expect? If you have an ideology that's like hating on a minority group, like, I don't know what
Well,
else.
but
I mean, what'd you
But
expect? I don't know.
I bet you cry and post online about the American imperialists killing and raping Vietnamese women.
I like
in
how this is
You're
turning
right,
into
I
an
do.
insult
I do, I
battle.
do.
This
But
is
there's a
turning-
difference,
Hold
though.
on.
You guys
Vietnamese
should not do an
women
insult
are just
battle.
women. Okay,
I would
you
literally
can't
anyone.
compare. Okay. You're
It's
like
literally no
comparing
one-
Germany to like
Please,
under-
please stop.
under-
No, please stop.
Guys,
No,
let's calm
no
down.
one
Let's
literally
calm down.
this shit, bro. Stop trying to take dabs at each
I
other.
feel like the argument of not caring about fascist women are raped. I feel like that's extremely a very poor. There's a poor reasoning
fine.
behind it. Hold up.
Hold on, let him finish.
There's some very poor reasoning behind accepting the rape of anybody, because the reasoning behind accepting the rape of a particular group or people can be used to apply to anybody. The reason that because you think that fascism is a terrible ideology and that's harmful, that therefore you don't care that they got raped, could be anybody could use that sort of reasoning and apply it to anybody. Let's say 2 million communists got raped. Now, I think that let's say that I thought that communism was an inherently dangerous and terrible ideology. Now, I could say the exact same thing. I don't care that those people got raped. Now, our reasoning is the exact same. Yet you would have a problem with one and not the other.
Hold on. Did Stalin go around saying, "Let's kill all the Jews"?
Actually, yes.
No, he did not, dude. He killed anti-Semitic people.
There's a very big thing where he imprisoned a bunch of Jewish doctors, and that kind of came to bite him back in the ass when he had a cerebral hemorrhage in 1953.
Okay, just because they're Jewish, they happen to be Jewish. Like, it doesn't mean he's.
It was specifically Jewish doctors.
Yeah, he believed that the Jewish people were inherently against the communist.
He put them in the gulags.
He put them in the gulags because they fought against him, not because they were anti-Semitic. Him and Hitler never disagreed on anything politically. They disagreed because Hitler wanted his territory. Okay.
But either way, he didn't go around promoting the idea that we should be killing Jews.
But he did go around promoting the killing of kulaks.
Ha, funny. Okay, so explain that one.
What do you mean explain that?
Do you have evidence?
That
I have a lot of
he
evidence.
killed them.
Really? He killed them deliberately? Really?
Yeah, like they were shot and executed during the Great Terror.
They were shot.
Yeah,
Well,
the Great. Do you know about the Great Terror?
Yeah, I know about
and
it.
there's evidence that through NKVD statistics, hold up, through NKVD statistics, over 200,000 people were either executed or imprisoned, just from the statistics alone, during I don't remember what year it was, and they were accused under bogus charges of treason.
Of treason, you said?
Yeah.
Okay, that's not true, but okay. First of all, I'm glad you didn't bring up the Holodomor, because we all know that's a lie.
I didn't say the Holodomor. I said the Great Terror.
Okay. You said Great Terror. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which was the mass imprisonment and execution of hundreds of thousands of Soviet citizens, including those of the Soviet military, which happened directly after World War II. And there's evidence to suggest that around I think it's at the higher estimates, it's around 2 million Soviet soldiers were sentenced to the Soviet work camps.
That's not true.
Communists are honestly worse about denying genocides than fucking Holocaust deniers are, man.
Genocides. What genocide happened in the Soviet Union?
Great Terror.
Genocide. The Asian genocide in the Siberian wastes. I mean, you got all these.
Asian genocide?
The Asian genocide. Because the people of Japanese. Okay.
I don't really care. Like
in the east of Russia, right near the Korean border, the people of Japanese descent were executed because they would be seen as Japanese collaborators. The same thing happened in the
You
capitalist
said in
America.
Korea? Is this what you said? In Korea?
In the border to Korea. There is a border between Russia and Korea, or at least there was.
Wait.
Google Maps that shit, man. Google
Oh
Maps
no,
that shit
I'm
right
thinking
now.
about it now. I'm thinking about it now. Okay, I know what you mean. Okay.
Right.
Well, the reason why, first of all, when people will say that like DPRK is a terrible dictatorship, whatever. Like it's just like really dumb because like no shit they are. Like they got bombed the fuck out of by America. Like of course they're gonna be like anti-American. Like what do you expect?
The Japanese are pretty pro-American. They got bombed more than anybody. I mean, come on.
Yeah, they're pro-American. They have the same system.
Well, I mean,
But like
maybe
it's a little
don't-
different though. Hold on. It's
maybe
a little
don't
different, though,
adapt a
because
genocidal
Japanese-
system, and you wouldn't get you'd like
Are you-
us a little bit more. That'd be cool.
Okay, but first of all, the Japanese attacked
They're
America
also not
for
the same system.
Korea
as
never
America.
attacked
They're a
America.
They
just went and
parliamentary
bombed them.
democracy. They're a parliamentary
Fascist.
democracy. Yes, sir.
You gotta let him. It's go back and forth. Y'all don't talk to each other. Let
Okay.
him say something.
I was gonna say that Japan attacked America first. Korea did not attack America first.
They
America
attacked
just attacked
America's
Korea.
ally, South.
Yeah.
Right. Well, South Korea didn't exist at the time, so that's not true. It was just all Korea.
Yeah, South Korea did exist. So what happened was
No,
hold
no,
up,
no,
hold
no.
up, hold
They
up,
sent
hold up,
people
hold
over
up,
to
hold
kill
up,
the communists. That's what
hold up,
happened.
hold up, hold up.
No, that's what happened.
So the history of Korea is a very is a great big enigma. After the Japanese takeover of Korea, there was extreme punishment of Korean citizens because the Japanese thought they were inferior. And then after World War II, the Korean Peninsula was separated between the Soviets and the Americans, who each established their own forms of ideologies. The Soviets establishing a communist ideology, and the Americans establishing a quote unquote democratic, but it was more of a dictatorship on both sides. The Koreans absolutely attacked first on the South Korean side, and South Korea was an absolutely illegitimate country, even if it was being propped up by America.
It's just an American puppet state. It still is.
Well, but the whole thing of you saying South Korea didn't exist when the U.S. stepped in and helped out. South Korea
at
became
first
a
it didn't.
hold on. South Korea became an official state, of their own August 15th, 1948, and we stepped in somewhere in
Because we hate the
1950.
communists. Yeah, because we hate the communists.
What?
Not at that
We
point
hate
in
the
time.
communists. That's why. That's the only reason. It's always against like
Actually,
socialism.
no.
Look
Yeah,
all
at
around
that
the
point in
world.
time.
Look all around the world. Bolivia, they're always throwing coups. Like they don't need to be over there. Like Venezuela, like they're a bunch of countries
Do you understand
So-
why we hated the communists at that time?
because we thought they would take over the world. Some Cold War propaganda.
No, it's not Cold War propaganda. So at that point in time,
Yeah.
or specifically before 1953, right after World War II, the United States, Great Britain, and the Soviets were in a not the tripartite, but in a alliance. And the problem was that the United States countries, or the United States, saw that the Soviets were so much as not really liberating the countries, more as they were occupying them and adding them to the Soviet Union. Combine that with the fact that I think it was either Afghanistan or Iran, where the British and the Soviets both had an agreement that they were going to leave the country after the war ended. The British held up their side of the agreement, but the Soviets didn't. And then the UN kicked them out of Iran. After that came the Truman Doctrine, which was which was the falling of the friendship, in which the Soviet Union was claimed as not an ally anymore because of the fact that they were occupying countries instead of liberating them, and because of the fact that they were going against UN doctrine at that time. It wasn't because they were It wasn't because they were communist. It's because of the fact because we were friends with them for quite a while after the war.
Right.
until they started occupying countries, including Berlin. They blocked off Berlin in the 1950s. We had to do the Berlin airlift in order to supply Berlin with the food that it needed. Stalin attempted to starve the fuck out of Berlin in order to make them choose communism. And they did a bunch of things in order to make us not like them.
Okay, well, why would he deliberately want to starve out people?
Why would he deliberately? So he could get the Allies to leave Berlin.
That's why.
Yeah, so if he
Control.
starved the people, then the people would turn against the Allies because of the fact that, you know, the Allies are responsible for the citizens of that area. So Berlin was separated into 3 or 4 distinct regions. One of them was owned by France, the other by Britain, the other by the United States, and the other by the Soviet. So the 3 that were on the Allies side turned into West Berlin, and the 3 on the east side turned into East Berlin. After the falling of the Soviet Union and American relationship, resulted in the Soviet army being ordered by Stalin to block the roads leading to Berlin, trying to force the Western Berlin into submission to join the communists. And the whole point of starving them was to make them turn against the Allies and force the Allies out. Now, what we did instead was we did something called the Berlin airlift, where we shipped in more food and fuel than had ever been done before for the Berlin, and it was a very humanitarian, very proud humanitarian moment in democratic American history.
Humanitarian.
Yeah, it was absolutely humanitarian.
Yeah, okay, cool. But like, we're not humanitarian now, though, are we?
I don't understand what that has to
Are you
relevance to
saying
this discussion.
anything that isn't like a sarcastic
Wait,
ass response, bro? Like real shit. Like everyone else is
Okay, I
speaking
wanna say
facts, and then
something.
you're just sarcastic.
I'm just-
Okay, I want to say something. Hold on. I want to say something to what. But first, America was for the fascists at first. That's why they didn't join the war till 44, when we got bombed by Japan.
America wanted to join the fascists.
No, they didn't want to join them. They were for them. They didn't like because Henry
kind
Ford.
of,
We all know.
and not really.
We thought they would destroy the communists, so we said, "Oh, we're just not going to get involved," because we thought the Nazis would destroy the communists.
Yeah, that's
We
not true.
actually did support them.
That's
No,
not
it
true.
is. Henry Ford.
It's-
No, it is true.
I can
It's true.
explain why the United States didn't join the war. It's because of the United States isolationist outlook.
Right.
And the citizens of the United States, we've had this since World War I, where we didn't go in. While we supported the German side, the people kind of did. We never joined the war because we have this isolationist outlook that, you know, it's came in here since the 1700s. It's sort of why we didn't join the Napoleonic War, is because we have this isolationist outlook, and it's remained with our country ever since its founding. But in regards to the idea that we supported the fascists, that is very much not true. Even before the war, hold up. Even before we joined the war, even before we joined the war, we supplied millions of tons of food and munitions to the Germans, and even during the war, we supplied millions of tons of fuel, munitions, and food and vehicles to the Soviets through the Lend-Lease program. We had a very poor relationship with the actual fascists because they were allied with Japan, and we had put sanctions on Japan due to their expansionist outlook during the 30s. We stopped supplying them with oil. That probably resulted in Pearl Harbor due to the fact that Japanese suddenly had no oil and they needed to get the oil reserves in Southeast Asia, but a lot of that was owned by Great Britain and American territories, and so they had to go to war with America, which is probably the best of a bad option. So the Americans absolutely didn't support the fascists.
All right.
Well, that's not true.
Well, hold on, guys. So I think the topic has kind of gone off. The convo has gone off topic from what we were originally talking about. So with that said, I'm going to end the stream here.
Okay.